Hello and welcome back to Pharmacist Diaries, the podcast that reveals the secret lives of pharmacists, from where their journeys began, where they are now, and everything in between. I am your host, Anisha Patel, and on today's episode, Sunjay and I record unexpectedly at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. We weren't expecting to record a podcast for you guys, but actually we had a last-minute cancellation on our Pharmacist Diaries roadshow. So we decided to make the most of our time and record randomly without a topic of conversation and just go for it and wing it. So part of this episode involves talking about our feelings with regards to our first time doing a podcast on the road. We had a couple of technical difficulties, so actually it was a really good opportunity to set the camera up and get the lighting and all the sound working. But Sunjay managed to overcome the issues, so when we had our first guest come onto the podcast, everything ran smoothly, so happy days. We're really, truly grateful to be part of this experience and have the opportunity to record with 6 absolutely amazing paediatric pharmacists. But this episode specifically talks about, I guess, the future of Pharmacist Diaries, and I've been doing a lot of talking about this on the last few episodes, and really excited to share what we've been up to and what our adventures have been all about. So today we discuss the fact that I am starting some masterclasses. So if you check out my website, www.pharmacistdiaries.com, you will find a whole series of masterclasses which will be starting from this summer. The first one that I'm doing is on June 18th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. and it's all virtual. And this is all about international working as a pharmacist. I'm really excited to go live and speak to you guys face to face. I don't get the opportunity to actually interact with you as listeners and viewers of my podcast. Everything is recorded beforehand and you guys listen to me, but you don't actually get to interact with me. So this is something that I'm really looking forward to. And part of it is sharing my journey, which is really exciting for me too. Some of you will know that I lived in Dubai and Abu Dhabi for 5 years of my life from 2013 to 2018. So I had completed my residency in Oxford and built the foundation as a hospital pharmacist with my clinical diploma, and then moved out to the UAE to live with my husband. The adventure, the excitement, the opportunity to work abroad has absolutely transformed my career, and I think it's really valuable for me to share that on a masterclass. I've also set up a workbook, so you'll be able to download this or print it prior to the masterclass and fill it in along the way. I'll be sharing the challenges that we faced personally, the opportunities that you'll get by working abroad, and how you can transform some of those transferable skills into roles within the NHS or within community pharmacy or even in a GP practice. And I'll also talk a little bit about how to find jobs, how to get yourself a visa, and also get licensed as a pharmacist. So join the masterclass and sign up through my website. Sunjay and I have also decided that we will do a podcast masterclass. We've been podcasting now for 3 years. We moved from audio to video in the last year or so, and we've been learning along the way, and it's been a really exciting journey. So part of the process for us is to share that with you. And we've had people reach out to us to ask us how we started on our podcast journey. So this masterclass is an opportunity for us to share with you where we started, how we created the name for the podcast. Do you do audio? Do you do video? What platforms do you use? How do you record? What equipment do you need? Kind of everything you need to get started for a podcast. And it doesn't have to be pharmacy related. It can be something outside of pharmacy, but we're happy to support you. And all of this is for free. And again, I'll be creating a workbook that you can make notes along the way. We're really excited and we are confident that the masterclasses will provide really valuable insight into making amazing changes for your personal and professional career. So watch this space.
Because luckily we did this, right?
Look, this is a trial.
Yeah, it's trial because since we, let's tell
my
them,
sound wasn't working.
we're here because someone cancelled our first appointment. these things happen. It's okay. I'm cool with it. So we just thought we'd hit record, and we hit record, and what wasn't working? Oh, we had a crackling sound in your microphone, which sent shivers down my spine. Luckily, I fixed that. And
you always have a backup plan.
Yeah, and today I came specifically by stripping my backup plan because I'm trying to go minimal with the travel. And then I realised, I thought, well, let me monitor the audio from this camera, and I tried to monitor the audio, and there was no audio waveform, so there was no sound. Anyway, so we were talking about, before we realised that nothing was recorded, is doing things new. Here we are at Great Ormond Street doing our first ever roadshow. I'm going to call it the Pharmacist Diaries Roadshow. How many episodes were we supposed to record today?
So we were having 3 episodes today,
So
but we're doing 2, but we're doing our own.
So we are doing 3.
Because here we are.
And then 3 next week.
And 3 next week, yeah.
Amazing.
Or maybe 4.
So if you're a workforce of pharmacists who want us to come and interview you for the podcast, let us know, because we're happy to go places and do days like this, because it's quite fun.
Well, have reached out to me, which is very exciting, about potentially going down to the children's hospital there.
We're going to have to bleep because we're not allowed to tell people what we're doing.
No, we don't have to bleep.
Just don't
them
say
out.
all that many times, because that means I have to bleep it a lot.
Well, other people have reached out to me when I went to the Clinical Pharmacy Congress and talked about the podcast. People wanted to showcase the pharmacists who work in their departments, and they were like, oh, come to us. That'll be really exciting. Let's do it. And they've already emailed me, so that was fun.
Amazing.
So that'll be good for come June, when I reduce to 4 days a week in my current job at Evelina and King's. And Mondays will be my podcast day. And little Kiki is in nursery and Lily's at school, so we have the opportunity to escape.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of this kind of fun stuff is to come. And I did say 2023 is going to be the year for this podcast.
You did.
And it's happening.
What else are we doing? What else are you doing that's new?
So, yes, I am in the background of this week. I am working on my website. I am building some dates for masterclasses. I'm very excited about this. I even did a dance just for that, because it's that exciting. Because I have showcased what other people are doing for 3 years now and talked about myself, but I'm ready to step up, and I want this podcast to be a listening podcast, but I also want to transition it to a doing podcast. I want people to be able to listen to an episode and then take things away from that they could do, that I'm actively promoting. Conversations are amazing. People feel inspired. It's an enjoyable talk to listen to on your way to work, and you will learn things along the way. You will gain courage to do something new. You will maybe potentially go outside the box and be adventurous, knowing that other people are doing things similar. But I actually want to teach people, and I've been thinking really deeply about what that might look like, and I'm really passionate about experiencing pharmacy on a global scale. I've worked internationally myself. It's not the only time that I'm going to do it. I've been talking about, finding another opportunity where I can work abroad as a pharmacist, even if it's a couple of weeks of volunteering. I found the opportunity in Honduras and Costa Rica. There was one. And, I'm craving adventure. And I think there's a lot of people who are struggling to find information about working abroad, specifically working in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. People are reaching out to me to find out how I got my job, what do I have to do to get licensed, how does a visa work, what's it like to live there, what's the difference between the UK and the UAE in terms of your professional life. And that's information that I can provide with ease. It's information, I've been through the process. I've lived that life. And I think it would be very valuable for me to share a step-by-step process as to what people can do and why they would want to go and move there. Is this the right time for them? So I'd like to basically create a workshop or a masterclass for people to come and reflect on their journey to date and whether or not this is the right opportunity for them to further progress their career. And I think it's a great idea.
I think it's an amazing idea.
And it's going to be free.
And it's free. Yeah, I'm just thinking back to when you moved to the UAE, or even when I moved, and obviously there is a lot more information available. I mean, we're talking about a decade or plus later, so there's obviously information is more readily available, but it's quite scattered, isn't it? You think about moving abroad, there's so much you have to know or understand, not just forget the job side of things, but what's life like there? What's it like to live there? How much does it cost to rent or buy? Or which areas do you rent or buy? What's the transport like? How are you going to get to work? Are you going to be commuting? Are you going to be driving? All of these things, all of these questions.
It's very overwhelming.
It is, and I think that's where people like the idea of adventure and, oh yeah, I'd love to work overseas and all this. And I think a lot of people dream, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think dreaming's great. I think when it comes to actually doing something about it, I think it can be, like you said, it's overwhelming and it can put people off. So having somewhere where information is readily available, where you can, from hopefully a familiar face by now, people know who you are. And it's like, oh yeah, actually, this would be interesting because we can tell them together. Of course, we both live there, but we can tell them what it's like as a pharmacist specifically, what the job market's like. That's information that's very hard to come by. What exactly is it like? What's the lay of the land? So that's important, but also the other stuff. So having like a one-stop place where I'm not saying you're not going to need to go anywhere else apart from this masterclass, but it's just a good start, isn't it? We've been on a couple of masterclasses for living in other countries, and we just out of interest, and we've been on them, and it's quite useful to have that kind of kickstart, because then it gives you an idea of, okay, now I need to know more about this, or now I want to know more about this, or it might just be like, actually, do you know what? I didn't like the sound of that, and no, thank you. So I think that this is where we want to try and help.
Yeah, absolutely. And providing that information and the sort of insider insight is definitely worth people's while. It makes a massive difference if you're making a huge decision, knowing that someone else within your profession has already worked there and lived there. And we had a lot of ups and downs when we lived there, a lot. We lived in multiple locations. We moved every 11 to 12 months. I had 2 different jobs there. I had a little bit of a rocky start, finding opportunities. And part of that was, I guess, my ability to just be free, and I went on that adventure with very limited knowledge of what I was getting myself into, and I was okay with that. I'm a bit of a free spirit sometimes, and there were so many hospitals there and so many opportunities that you would have expected a pharmacist to be able to work in, but when it came down to it, it was quite challenging to actually find work. There are a lot of loopholes in terms of the visa and sponsorship and getting your license, etc. There are adjustments to culture. Working life is different, so it's 48 hours a week, for example, when we work less for the NHS, and you're working potentially weekends and night shifts, which I did for years. So it is different, but I definitely truly believe that I would not be who I am today without having that exposure to working internationally, and just, yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I think the international working's always been a thing, hasn't it? But I think in this day and age, it's become more prevalent, and I feel like since COVID, people are now a little bit more adventurous. Not everyone, but those that already had that in them are like, oh, actually, I need to get out again before something else happens that stops me from doing these things or pursuing my dreams.
Absolutely. And a lot of young people are identifying quite quickly that it is hard to earn enough money from working in the NHS as a junior pharmacist. They're not potentially married with children, so they're, relatively free. And they're looking for other opportunities where they can earn a better living or have a better quality of life, because life in the UK can be quite challenging. Financially, people are really struggling at the moment. Some people have reached out to me to say that they would like to live abroad, ideally tax-free living, save money and come back to be able to then buy a home in the UK. So they just want to go for a few years and then return back to the NHS, which is, great. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, it's well worthwhile. So when's that masterclass? We don't know yet.
So I'm doing it in June. 100%
Okay.
it's happening in June. I just haven't announced a date, so watch the space. Keep an eye on my website. Definitely subscribe to my emails, because anyone who's in my email list will get notified first about any masterclasses coming up. We are going to do a masterclass about how to launch a podcast, because there's a few pharmacists who have reached out to me who'd like to start like a clinical specific podcast. So it may not be as popular as international working, but there is a huge amount of value in having a masterclass when we've been through this process for the last 3 years, and there are so many things we now know that we can share, again, for free.
Well, it comes back to what I think I said on the last podcast about if you talk when you listen to a lot of other creators, or not even the word creator, sorry, it's the wrong term, but other people that are creating content, they always say that they create content based on the questions that people always seem to ask them, right? And one of the questions I know I get asked a lot is, how hard or difficult or easy is it to start a podcast, and what do you need? And so we get a lot of those questions. I know you get a lot of those questions as well. So we're just going to reflect. And again, I'm not saying that we have all the answers, because I know I could do this a lot more efficiently and a lot better, but I know enough, and I think we know enough together, having done this for a few years, to help those that are just starting out on their journey. Again, just giving them that little one-stop shop information, without being overwhelmed, because of course there's a plethora of information out there on how to start a podcast. You don't need me or you to tell you how to do that. However, to stop it from being overwhelming, because again, that can be like, oh, do I need this?
Just navigating through that
hard.
information
It's
is
hard.
really hard.
It's hard, and and everyone I know who kind of has done something for a while ends up saying this. Oh God, if only I knew this when I first started, I would have done things a lot differently, and I 100% would have. But I want other people to. Not like I don't want them to make mistakes and learn, because I've learned a lot from this journey, and the things that have gone wrong and how to put things right. But just a bit more of a shortcut to say you don't need to bother with this right now. This is what's most important. I think that's what I want to boil it down to, is that if you're going to create a podcast, these are the things that actually matter, and these are the things that don't. And then how you then go about launching that. So that's going to be fun.
And making it easy for people to start this journey.
Yeah, 100% making it easy. Using the right tools. Again, there's so many tools available out there, subscriptions and AI tools and all of these things. And we use a number of those things. But again, it's just boiling it down to, actually, this is all you need. Like, for example, I'm going to be making videos on Descript that we've started using for video editing, which has completely revolutionized my workflow. So
I really enjoy it.
It's crazy, yeah. Descript, if you don't know what Descript is, it's basically a video editor, but you're editing. It's like editing a Word document, so it creates a transcript for anything that you put into it, whether it's an audio file or a video file. And then if you want to just take bits out, you just literally highlight the section text and just press delete, and it goes, and it's the same as editing. So, just doing videos on things like that have helped us change the way that we work and improve the way that we work. I think these sort of tools are quite useful. Again, you don't have to use Descript. There are more simpler ways of doing things. I kind of don't want to reveal everything that we're going to talk about in the masterclass now, but there are a number of things there. And different options, right? Because people also have different budgets and different knowledge and ability levels. So again, just want to try and cater to everyone. People that want to go the whole hog and have a setup like, I've got around me, and this is not the whole hog, but this is quite extensive for a lot of people. Or you just want to sit there with your phone, and that's fine as well. So that's another one, the podcasting, how to create a podcast, how to start a podcast.
And also I'm creating a workbook in the background so that when you join the masterclass, you can either print it or it'll be an editable PDF. You can type along the way and just make notes, just to make life easy for everybody, and to learn.
Yeah.
And once you've kind of been through the masterclass, you might be at the point where actually, I think I can do this. I think I can actually create a podcast of my own. That's what we want people to go away with.
Bottom line is, what's the most impressive for me is the fact that you have inspired other people to create podcasts. Like these are people that probably may not have been thinking about creating a podcast before. They've heard you, they've been listening to your podcast, and now they're like, I could do that. I want to do my own podcast. Whether it's they want to copy, I don't mind. If people are trying to copy you, that's a sign of success, right? Or it's doing something different. It's great. That's where you've got to, right? It's the same as when I worked as a PT. I've said my greatest achievement as a PT are the two people that I know who I trained, who eventually became PTs themselves. But that for me is like, wow, that was, again, I should big up myself. It was because of me, right? It was because of work. And they've told me this as well. It's because of you, I've now done this and it's completely changed my life. And same with podcasting. If someone starts a podcast, it will change your life, right? I know that sounds really drastic, but if you are that passionate about it and you put the effort in that's required, it will change your life. It's been a huge revelation in ours. So I think that's cool. That's the coolest thing out of this, is that just inspiring others to want to do something and create and be different.
What was so exciting about today is even last night when I was getting my stuff ready and I saw you packing, I was thinking, I'm really grateful for today. Like, I'm really grateful for Jane Ballinger for believing in me and believing in the podcast. She's the reason why I'm here for the Great Ormond Street series. But I'm just really grateful that we get to work together. We get a day out and it doesn't feel like work. It feels really fun. It feels very creative. It feels, it's exciting. It's something new. We're learning along the way. There's been some, like mess ups with the audio just now. One of your cables broke and, we're fixing those things along the way. But, I feel really happy that I've got this.
Yeah. I mean, if you think 3 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's 3 years.
It's 3 years, right?
Yeah, 3 years next month.
It's literally exactly 3 years for Pharmacist Diaries. We'll find the date when the first episode went out. We should know that really shortly. Then we can celebrate that day. So in three years, and we're sitting here, at this famous London hospital, doing 2 days worth of recordings. It's just phenomenal. It's amazing. I think that is really cool. And like you said, 2023 is going to be the year. So watch this space.
Agreed.